Hello and welcome to this Friday edition of Global Lens on News9 Live with me, Neha Khanna. As always, we have a packed show for you and our focus continues to be on the escalating tensions between India and Canada. Days after the Canadian Prime Minister accused India of orchestrating the killing of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar without furnishing any evidence, Justin Trudeau now says Canada is committed to building closer ties with India, despite the quote-unquote credible allegations that he has levelled against the country. Speaking at a press conference in Montreal, Trudeau said he thinks it's extremely important that Canada and its allies continue to engage constructively and seriously with India, given its growing importance on the world stage. He said, and I quote, "India is a growing economic power, an important geopolitical player, and as we presented with our Indo-Pacific strategy just last year, we are very serious about building closer ties with India." And then came the caveat, where he said, at the same time, obviously, as a rule of law country, we need to emphasize that India needs to work with Canada to ensure that we get the full facts of this matter. Trudeau also said the United States had assured Canada that Secretary of State Antony Blinken would raise these allegations during his meeting with India's External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar. Significantly, in the official statements issued by the two sides, including the US, there is no mention of the Nijjar case. However, news agency Reuters has reported that the Canada row did come up in the talks between the two leaders. Quoting a US official, the report says the US Secretary of State Antony Blinken urged India to cooperate with the Canadian investigation into the murder of Sikh separatist Hardeep Singh Nijjar during a meeting with Indian Foreign Minister S. Jaishankar on Thursday. Jaishankar is on a 5-day visit to Washington. The Canadian Prime Minister has alleged that the Indian government was behind the killing of Nijjar in the country's British Columbia province on the 18th of June. India had designated Nijjar as a terrorist in 2020 as he was wanted in multiple cases of targeted killings and hate crimes in India. Even Interpol had issued a red corner notice against Nijjar. Despite that, Canada went ahead and granted citizenship to the Khalistani separatist. Now, India has firmly rejected Canada's allegations as absurd and motivated. Remember, over the years, India has handed over to Canadian authorities multiple dossiers on Khalistani terrorists and extremists detailing their involvement in serious crimes while they operated freely from Canadian soil and made at least 25 extradition requests. Canada has not honoured even a single such request. Meanwhile, the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, who have been accused of botching the probe into the killing of Nijjar, in a detailed report by the Washington Post, have now said the killing of Nijjar remains an active and ongoing investigation. Just yesterday, the Canadian media reported that Nijjar's son Balraj has said in an interview that his father had regular meetings with Canadian Security Intelligence Service officers once or twice a week, including a couple of days before his killing on the 18th of June, with another meeting scheduled for 2 days later. Many are now asking, was Nijjar a Canadian intelligence asset? In another report, the Vancouver Sun newspaper has stated that a man has been arrested for vandalizing 2 large Hindu temples in Surrey. They say the suspect and his accomplices are accused of plastering the Hindu places of worship with yellow-red posters. The posters call for a separate Sikh homeland in India and declare that Indian diplomats in Canada are wanted for the assassination of Khalistani terrorist Hardeep Singh Nijjar. This is not the first time that Hindu temples in Canada have been targeted by pro-Khalistan extremists. In fact, Gurpantwan Singh Pannon has been operating openly from Canadian soil and threatening not only Indian diplomats but also Hindus in Canada, asking them to leave that country and return to India. Needless to say, no action has been taken by the Canadian authorities against either Pannon or any such extremist elements. The question we're asking on Global Lens tonight is this: has Canada hit a brick wall in its investigation into Nijjar's killing after accusing India of being behind it and producing no evidence to back its claims? Where is the evidence is the most fundamental question that Justin Trudeau needs to answer. Is Trudeau rapidly losing face and credibility both in Canada and abroad with his reckless shoot and scoot vote bank politics? Let's put those questions to our panel of experts. Joining me on the show, former Indian diplomats, Ambassador KP Fabian and Ambassador RP Kaushik, and completing the panel is Major General Ashwini Sivaj, geopolitical expert. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. Ambassador KP Fabian, let me begin with you, sir. Let's take this one point at a time. Antony Blinken, the US Secretary of State, has taken up the Nijjar killing matter with our foreign affairs, with our foreign minister in Washington, says a Reuters report which has quoted a US official. Even though there is no mention of this case in the official statements issued by the two sides. But the Reuters report says the matter did come up, and Blinken asked Jaishankar that India must cooperate in the investigation. For starters, what should we make of these recurring statements, sir, that have emanated from Washington? Is it a case of the United States trying to run with the hare and hunt with the hounds? Or would you characterize these as largely boilerplate statements that have been issued to keep its old ally Canada happy?
Thank you. Well, I'm not privy to all these talks, but my understanding is that, when such talks take place, at least when I was working, that was 23 years ago, the two sides used to agree on what to tell the media. I take it that in this case also there was agreement between the two sides as to what to tell the media, and therefore the official, what they call the readout from Washington, did not have any reference to this matter. But Reuters, as you said, has quoted, verbatim an official. So I take it that this was raised, and don't forget that Prime Minister Trudeau had said sometime before the meeting was to take place that this would be raised. So I take it that this was raised. But at the same time, Washington wanted to play it soft vis-a-vis India, and hence it was not included in the readout. My reckoning is that Canadians have more evidence than they have, come out with. And they, according to CBC, and I'm not suggesting that Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, or that the CBC says we should take it as the Bible, but it's always important to know what the other side is saying. They may not be saying exactly what they are thinking, but what they are saying is to be taken note of. And 2 points. One is that CBC has repeatedly drawn our attention to the presence in India of Jodie Thomas, the National Security Chief, Chief Advisor of Canada. She's also Chief of the Intelligence. She was here in August and then in September, and she had meetings with her counterparts. So something must have been shared. Second is that, and this is even more important, whether it is true or not, CBC has said that Canadian intelligence officials have told the CBC that Indian intelligence officials in private conversations did not contest the proposition that India had some linkage with this murder. So that also has to be taken note of. But all that I would say is that this matter is becoming more and more curiouser and curiouser. And for us, those who are not in the government, it is becoming more and more difficult to find out where the truth lies. But I take it that Prime Minister Justin Trudeau might choose to come out with more evidence, quote unquote, at a time of his choice.
Okay, that is interesting. Let me take this to Ambassador Kaushik. Sir, what is your take? Because, Justin Trudeau has received a lot of criticism, especially here in India, but also abroad, with many saying that, you do not play shoot and scoot politics with a fellow democracy and a friendly country, which is what he seems to have done vis-a-vis India. by talking about quote unquote credible allegations in the Canadian Parliament without, at least publicly, sharing any evidence to back those claims. Therefore, questions are still being asked. Where is that evidence? Justin Trudeau needs to back up his wild charges against India. And interestingly, today, Justin Trudeau has said, we are fully committed to building closer ties with India. Given its growing importance on the world stage, India is a growing economic power and Indo-Pacific geopolitical player. Is he trying to, in a sense, extend some kind of an olive branch, you think, by making these statements, given how sour the relationship has gone in the last 2 weeks?
Unfortunately, this has become a repetitive reference from Canada. Obviously, they are under some political pressure at home that they would like to repeat this over again and talk to the allies in the Western Europe as well as in America, and that they have said repeatedly that India must cooperate. I really do not understand what kind of cooperation they want. Do you want us to say that, yes, we have killed him? I mean, it's ridiculous. Everything is known, not a shred of paper, not a single evidence has come forth from Canada which can prove credible in any sense of the term that India has been involved in this case. Number of times they have had all kind of alienation with India. You know it very well that what kind of procession it has gone on the roads of Canada, where the former Indian Prime Minister has been shown in an ugly situation where she has been shot and everything has gone on the tableau, despite all our reminders that these Khalistani positivists and this kind of repeated incursion in their country should be avoided. Nothing has come out of it. So I would imagine that this has gone far beyond than the Khalistani approach. It is a question of Mr. Trudeau wants to satisfy the Sikh community who have a good say in their voting. And don't remember if any time they have said anything good about India, they have completely forgotten about 1985 situation that emerged from the Kanishka episode. Everybody knows what kind of evidence have been given to us, despite all our evidence have been given to them, and some action to be taken, nothing has emerged out of it. Now, let us also not put this issue too much in the enlarged scenario. Not all Sikh community members are involved in this. There is a very strong faction which has been motivating some of these Sikh community gentlemen. I have found in my own experience, in whatever little way I have had, either in the US or elsewhere, they are the most marvelous community, extremely generous, extremely cordial to India, India's cause. And here sometimes you have a very large picture, as if a great revolt is taking place against India and these members are involved in it. I think the first thing that Trudeau must do is to prevent any such occurrences on their land. For instance, when I was in some place as an ambassador, I found that the Pakistan was carrying on certain type of hostile propaganda against us and observing some kind of a Kashmir Day. I spoke to the leadership and that was prevented. They did not allow their country to be a playground for this kind of a politics. Likewise, I would imagine that Mr. Trudeau should have taken some step, some initiative to calm down the situation and not carry on this kind of a propaganda all the time, repeatedly. Every time he is reminding we must be cooperating. What kind of cooperation he wants, I do not know. I would imagine that this should be clearly told in as many words that Mr. Trudeau has to come out with tangible evidence which can be verified, can be brought to the books in a manner by which we can do something about it, or
Yes.
think about it.
I totally agree with you, sir. And you were quite right in pointing out that, the Khalistan movement had all but died, especially in India. The only country that seems to be keeping it alive is Canada. And it is the likes of Justin Trudeau who are playing cynical and venal vote bank politics, even at the interest of, even at the risk of jeopardizing India-Canada ties. Let me now go across to Major General Sivaj. Major General Sivaj, India's External Affairs Ministry is on record as saying we have not received any evidence from the Canadians. Our External Affairs Minister, who's currently in Washington, was speaking in New York a few days ago. He is on record as having told a former US ambassador that if we have told the Canadians, if you have any specific evidence, if you have any relevant evidence, we are open to looking at it. So far, we've received nothing. You know, this is a country that has not only looked the other way, but under Justin Trudeau, actively encouraged Khalistani elements, extremists, and in some cases terrorists on Canadian soil. As has been pointed out, they've not just been exercising their freedom of speech, many of them are wanted in cases of violence and targeted killings in India. They celebrated the assassination of our former Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. They've openly threatened Indian diplomats and even are now threatening Hindus in Canada. Therefore, you know, how is India supposed to react to the situation where Canada goes on saying cooperate with us and we are still waiting for that evidence to come forth? Of course, there is a contrarian view here with Ambassador Fabian saying maybe Justin Trudeau will come out with that evidence at a time and place of his choosing.
Neha, what I feel is that as far as Justin Trudeau is concerned, he is playing with the fire. Possibly he has fired more than he can sustain. You see, the question comes is it is his domestic politics which is dictating his foreign policy. Now, as far as his domestically, he has failed in all spheres, whether it is inflation, price rise, or it is housing or health, he has completely failed. And therefore, to divert the attention of the public, he has brought out this point. Also, at the same time, his party, which had a snap election, that is Liberal Party in 2021, thinking that he will come with more majority, has got a shortfall of about 15 seats. And he has made use of a new Democratic Party held by Jagmeet Singh, who is known as a Khalistani activist and a sympathizer. And that is what the domestic policy is dictating his international policy. That is unfortunately what is happening in Canada is concerned. Now, if he's so much worried about Hardeep Singh Nijjar killing, what happened to Sukhdev Singh killing? He was killed just about 2-3 days after that, and Lawrence Bishnoi Group has taken ownership that we have killed it. Why have they not investigating that? Why the Karima Baluch murder was not investigated, in which ISI was involved? She was a human rights activist from Pakistan. So the question is, it is playing a double speak, and one and second thing, he doesn't have an evidence. He's talking about credible allegation. There is nothing called credible allegation. If you have a concrete proof, if you have a reliable proof, please bring it out in public. India has told in no certain terms, we are ready to cooperate with you, provided you give us evidence of a nature wherein investigation can bring out. Whereas India has been bringing out and sharing dossier with Canada, wherein it's shown that Hardeep Singh Nijjar is a terrorist. He is involved in terrorist activity in India and the behest of ISI. In fact, unfortunately, what Justin Trudeau is not realizing it, that the ISI is now enlarging its base in Canada. And second thing is that the terrorism which is spreading. You know, after Pakistan, Canada will become a hub center of international terrorism. Hillary Clinton, when she came in 2013 in Pakistan, she told them and she warned them, if you have snakes in your courtyard and you think it will only bite your neighbor, one day they will bite you. So they are a victim of terrorism which was created by them as far as Pakistan is concerned. Is Justin Trudeau going the same way, that he is soft on the terrorist and one day the terrorism will spread in Canada only? Hardeep Singh Nijjar or all these Khalistanis are not Indian citizens. They are not doing anything in Indian soil. They are Canadian citizens, and they are also doing anti-social activities, anti-national activities in Canada itself. So to me, it looks like that now he's trying to change the stance. He also understands that if the question will come to select between Canada and India, I think the US may be a partner to them, and it is also a part of a G7 and 5 alliance intelligence grouping. But considering that India is a very important player to fight against China in South Asia as well as Indo-Pacific, to challenge the hegemony of China, I think America will not go all out to support Canada, and that possibly the Justin Trudeau has now realized it. The way things are shaping up, US is trying to show that he's trying to patch up. But the point today is Justin Trudeau has realized it. He has made a mistake. He has bitten more than he can chew. He is now trying to soften his stand. He is now telling on Thursday that India is the fifth largest democracy economy, and also that we need to cooperate with it. So possibly he is softening up. I suppose the back channel diplomacy, the ideal solution in such cases, wherein some sort of solution is found. But to me, it looks like that he does not have a credible evidence. And if he has a credible evidence, why is he not coming out with it? And the second thing is, he is becoming a victim of Khalistan activities in Canada, which will trouble him in the future. Third thing is, he's playing the same game which his father played. His father in 1982, when India had asked for extradition of Tarvinder Parmar because he was involved in number of terrorist activity in India, was refused. And same person was then involved in 1985 in Krishka bombing. 329 innocent civilians were killed. More than 250 were Canadian citizens. And the same thing is now being played by Justin Trudeau. He must realize it, that he should call spade as spade. Terrorist is terrorist. There is nothing called good or bad terrorist. He must acknowledge it. He cannot pick and choose, and that's what he's trying to do. I suppose the good sense should prevail. To me, it looks like that US has taken a very mature step. The Canada will understand it. Justin Trudeau should realize it, that enough is enough. This matter needs to be resolved diplomatically through back channel diplomacy rather than speaking at each other. Try to sort it out with together.
You're right, sir. But then Justin Trudeau has to start displaying some maturity. Many have accused him, and rightly so, of acting in an immature and reckless fashion. And you're right, is he creating a Frankenstein monster? Is he playing the same game that Pakistan played and is now paying a heavy price for it? Let me go back to Ambassador Fabian at this point. Ambassador Fabian, I don't know if Justin Trudeau is softening his stance on India and extending some sort of an olive branch. We've heard what he said on Thursday. But my question to you is this. The Washington Post came out with a report a couple of days ago where they accused the Canadian police of completely botching the investigation into the Nijjar killing. We know not a single person has been arrested even close to 4 months after the killing. On top of that, there are many eyewitnesses who were interviewed by Washington Post who've been quoted as saying that the killers came in a Sikh get-up. Why doesn't it occur to Justin Trudeau that this killing may well be the outcome of an inter-gang Khalistani rivalry, something that is known to have existed on Canadian soil for a very long time? And how do we know that there is not an ISI dimension to it, as has been pointed out by General Sivach?
Thank you. Just before answering the question, I want to make 2 points. One is that it is true that it is only a very small percentage of the Sikhs in Canada who support the Khalistan project. But we have to understand that this small minority is extremely active, A. B. The rest of the Sikh community is not, active at all. In other words, the Sikh leaders who support Khalistan do get the Sikh votes. That's a fact of life. So the Sikh community in Canada has to be a little more, to be active, a little more politically. Second is that the mention was made about, Parmar, and that Justin Trudeau's dad did not agree to the extradition. Yes, I was there in 82. It's like this. Pierre Elliott Trudeau, he was wrong in not agreeing to our request for extradition. But from that to argue that the Kanishka would not have occurred if Parmar had been extradited, no, that is bad logic, because to do something of that sort of thing, they were thinking about it. With or without Parmar, it would have happened. Now, coming to the Washington Post story, I read that, and RCMP had given a rejoinder to that. That also came in the either CBC or in the Canadian media, and they have said that Washington Post story said that the RCMP reached the site after some delay and all that.
And there
RCMP
was a
says
turf war and other such allegations, yes.
yes, that they reached within a couple of minutes. I forget how many minutes, 4, 5, whatever it is. Now, I want to make another point. You said that, they have not till now been able to apprehend any of those people, whether it is 6 people as Washington Post says, or 3 people as the story is spread by others. Now, it's like this. RCMP can be very, very crafty. It is quite possible that they have apprehended them, but again, I repeat, they will come out with it at a time of their choice. Now, the last point. You must be right, and I agree with you that this man must have been killed. Nijjar must have been killed as a result of the internal gang. They go and kill each other. But let us not forget that the ISI could have been behind it, but there is another matter, and that is that when I was in Canada, our intelligence people, and I don't blame them, they had to do it. They used to go and meet these extremists, either for tea or for a beer or even in their own houses and all that. Because, intelligence official has to find out what is happening. You see, so what I am afraid is that while our people might not have had anything to do with this killing, it is quite possible that RCMP has got a lot of electronic evidence, camera and all that, of our people meeting with these people. And last but not least, you see, 2 people are supposed to have fired the shots, and then there was a getaway vehicle. It is not beyond the means of RCMP to make those people come out with statements implicating India, whether our people were really involved or not.
Exactly.
So that's why I'm saying this is very complex. Let us not be complacent and say that, oh, Justin Trudeau has now discovered relations with India are important. No, that is all good diplomatic talk. So as I repeat, this is very, very complex.
I agree with you, sir. This is convoluted. But let me get a word in now from Ambassador Kaushik. Ambassador Kaushik, what would you say about what Ambassador Fabian is saying? That, there might have been these meetings between Indian intelligence officers and some of these Khalistani extremists. Before you answer that question, so I want to quote for you and our viewers, a report that came out just yesterday in the Canadian media, where they quoted Nijjar's son, Balraj, as saying in an interview that his father, Hardeep Singh Nijjar, was meeting with CSIS or Canadian intelligence officers on a weekly basis, often once or twice a week. The meeting started, according to him, at the start of this year, and those meetings weren't just about them warning him of the threat to his life. So the question is, if they thought, the intelligence officers in Canada, that they were doing their job by alerting Nijjar to the death threats that were being posed to him, did they really have to do that by reminding him twice a week? Therefore, there are questions being asked in India. Was Nijjar a Canadian intelligence asset? Do you not believe that Canada also needs to answer a few questions?
Madam Anchor, you have outlined some of the issues very well, articulated them extremely well, effectively. I would only raise 2 or 3 small points. One is, most of the Khalistanis in Canada are the outlaws from India, criminals who ran away and sought the shelter there. Number of times the government of India has asked for their extradition so that they can be tried here. Canada is aware of it. They have been notified a number of times, Ministry of External Affairs and other sources also, and they know it. No step has been taken to that effect. Number 3, as you would find that India is constantly under pressure, the consulate is under attack, temples have been attacked, Hindus have been threatened, intimidated. What steps have been taken by Canadian government to that effect? Now, I would put it the other way around. Why not we talk to Americans and say, you kindly convince your neighbor that they have to respond to some of these very credible questions where we have plenty of proof given, tangible proof given, everything is there, and they should take some initiative, they should take some action. Why have they not taken? I mean, put it the reverse way. Why should we always be responding? If you have some credible evidence, give us. Why? What kind of credible evidence we want? We don't need anything. If Canada has some credible evidence, all right. We have asked it repeatedly. That issue is completely buried, deep in the ground, and need not be talked about unnecessarily. And that creates a kind of a repetitive jargon, which really annoys us, as far as I can see. I think you have to reverse the position and put them in the question court and put them the idea as to what exactly they have taken and what exactly they intend doing there. It cannot be the same way all the time that India is under pressure. India has to provide them credible evidence. India is this. What their father did, the history is very well known to you. I mean, I don't want to be very personal about it, but some of us had gone to United States on the Asian invitation for Indo-US prospective relations. And we met with some effort Ganga Singh Dhillon, who was a militant in the US at the time. And we put a lot of questions. And Kabir Bedi put him right. Number of times that you are Sardarji, we are also Sardarji, and kind of a thing that happened. But let's not go into the details of it. What I'm saying is that I asked in Los Angeles some of the Sikh gentlemen, what do you want when you people go to San Francisco and shout some of these slogans and what happened? Then he confided with me, sir, we are not at all interested in any one of these things. Some of these people threaten us because we don't have a working permit, we don't have a working permission, we do not have the residential facilities as yet. So they say that we would expose you unless you cooperate. So we also accompany them to come there. And some other affluent Sardarji said, sir, they come and beg us and practically threaten us to give some donation. We pass off the problem and say yes. Now, likewise, I want to transfer this model to Canada. What I am saying is that some of the faction which has become so agitated and so active and doing the most mischievous act there have been totally pampered by the government. What step have we taken to calm them down? It is right time for the government of India to take initiative in these matters, rather than being all the time responsive to the queries which are downright, if I may be pardoned, totally absurd. I would finish it here. Otherwise, there are a lot of other things to say, but I would imagine that this is not really a matter in which we should be put into this kind of position. Thanks.
Well, thank you for sharing those very interesting anecdotes with us, sir, because they do shed a light on what has been going on in the name of the Khalistan project for a very long time in these countries, from Canada to the United States. You're right, sir. There was only recently a report, and we quoted it here on Global Lens, that talked about how a lot of people who go from India to Canada are helped by these Khalistani elements to get visas, and in return they are expected to participate in a number of Khalistani activities. And the most susceptible to this human trafficking racket are illegal immigrants and students who've not been able to find jobs there and have completed their education. And Canada is a country that says it takes human trafficking very seriously. Obviously, these people are being weaponized by the Khalistanis, but Canada again chooses to look the other way. General Sivaj, I want to ask you this. What would you say to those who are asking, was Nijjar a Canadian intelligence asset? Were they working together? We need more details from Canada on this. And two, just late yesterday, the Vancouver Sun reported that another 2 large Hindu temples have been vandalized in Surrey, which is where Nijjar came from. And we've seen, sir, this is not the first time Hindu temples have been attacked and vandalized on a number of occasions. Just recently, Panun issued a viral video where he was threatening Hindus in Canada, asking them to leave that country and return to India. So, when Justin Trudeau talks about the rights of one minority, as he puts it, what about the rights of another minority, the Hindus in Canada? He's certainly not concerned about them.
Absolutely. You see, Neha very rightly brought out this issue that as far as Canada is concerned, it has approximately a population about 8 crore. And out of them, the 6 are almost about 3.8 lakhs. And also another 4 to 5 lakhs are other Indian. But what has happened is that as far as the voting pattern in Canada is concerned, they vote as per the merit of the candidate, irrespective of the caste, religion. But the Indians have been seen voting in bulk, and that is why they have become a very important political tool. And that is why this National Democratic Party, though the strength is only 2.1%, but makes a lot of difference in almost 15 seats. And number of seats have been won by the New Democratic Party on this issue. The 6 and the other Indians vote in bulk. And therefore, the people who are involved in Khalistan activity may be only minority, or they may be, under pressure from the other Khalistanis because they have been brought by India and they have paid for them. They are now being sort of being blackmailed. But all said and done, this is the truth. What is happening is that the Khalistani activities are increasing in Canada. ISI totally involved. Necro-terrorism is working. There are a lot of drug money coming. People are being pressurized. At the same time, our Hindu temples have been vandalized and no action is being taken as far as the Canada government is concerned. If they are so much worried about one community, one minority, they must be equally worried about the other minority. And what sort of professionalism which has been shown by Canada government, that they have not able to resolve any issue. Who killed Karima Baluch? Who killed Sakdul? And this, as far as Kanishka killing concerned, it took them 3 decades to come with a report, and which was nothing but eyewash. And imagine what has happened in their parliament, that the Nazi veteran was honored. They didn't even know that he's a Nazi until unless it came out. It was a national embarrassment. Though the speaker has apologized, it's a total mistake of Justin Trudeau. So to me, it looks like Justin Trudeau is not realizing the larger picture. He's just playing to the gallery of certain militants and also the ISI too, just to remain in power. And remember, his popularity is going day by day down. And today, he's very unpopular in, no Prime Minister has been so unpopular in last 50 years as Justin Trudeau today. There, the Conservative Party is now taking a lead. So the question is, just for his political survival, he is doing what he is doing it. He is just doing basically to please National Democratic Party of Jagmeet Singh to stay in power. But unfortunately, he does not know that the damage which he is doing as far as the relation with India is concerned. We are the 5th largest economy, 4th largest military. There was a free trade agreement which is, about to be signed between both the countries. Today, India needs Canada, but Canada needs India more than India needs Canada. That must be understood by him. We are no more a pushover. And therefore, to meet like that, Justin Trudeau must realize it and see a larger picture. For bygones are bygones. I suppose some sort of a solution will be found out, because US is interested in patching up this problem. US needs India much more than anyone else as on today, especially in Indo-Pacific as well as in South China. And they are now dictating terms, and they are pressurizing Canada that, let's resolve this issue rather than blowing it out of proportion, because that's the only way of playing against China, because China is becoming stronger day by day in Indo-Pacific. And in case the pressure is put on India, the India stance changing toward Russia, America made a biggest mistake of putting pressure to the Russia and Russia-Ukraine war. Today, Russia is in the lap of China. They don't want to repeat this mistake
You're right,
again.
sir. I don't think America would want to take that risk.
I suppose this will not happen, and maturity will prevail, and some sort of solution will be found out, and it will be played low. That is what it is required, because the killing of basically Nijjar is by inter-gang rivalry, which is very prevalent in Canada as on today,
and
which is dictated by ISI.
Absolutely. And to think that Justin Trudeau thought it fit to go running to his parliament and to make these wild allegations so publicly against India, like I keep saying, a fellow democracy in a friendly country, without furnishing any evidence. Yes, the man is playing venal vote bank politics for his political survival. And you're quite right, sir. If Nazigate that happened right in the Canadian Parliament teaches us anything, it is probably this, that the Canadian intelligence apparatus needs to pull up its socks rather than training its guns on India. But on that note, Ambassador KP Fabian, Ambassador RP Kaushik and Major General Sivash, as always, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for your time and perspective.